Don't move, not yet. You can feel it, can't you? That strange silence before the truth starts to whisper. The test wasn't random. It was custom built, crafted like a surgical strike, meant to splinter your mind, strip your identity, and watch you crawl back, begging for permission to exist. They wanted to measure how long before you fractured. But the problem is, you didn't break, you changed. They designed the test to break your mind, and ended up triggering your evolution. Every question they threw at you wasn't meant to teach. It was meant to confuse. Every obstacle was calibrated to exhaust your will, to make you doubt your own thoughts. They weren't testing your strength. They were testing your surrender. But what they didn't account for was that some people don't collapse under pressure. They crystallize. You became sharper, colder, impossible to categorize. The experiment backfired. You became something they can't chart. They thought pain would distort your perception. Instead, it clarified it. You began to see patterns behind faces, codes behind conversations, motives wrapped in smiles. You started reading reality like a classified document. Every betrayal was a paragraph. Every heartbreak, a cipher. They wanted to induce chaos, but chaos is your native language now. They thought the silence after the breakdown would terrify you. But that's where you built your cathedral. You learned to worship pain like it was a teacher. You took what was meant to destroy your faith and turned it into your blueprint for creation. You stopped asking, "Why me?" and started asking, "What are you trying to build through me?" That's when the architects panicked, because evolution doesn't follow permission slips. You see, normal minds obey gravity. They break downward. Yours didn't. Yours broke upward, into awareness, into control, into danger. You became too calm for their chaos, too focused for their distractions. The system thrives on reaction, but you learned the art of pause. The stillness that makes the hunters question if they've become the hunted. They tried to gaslight you with fear, but fear only fuels the metamorphosis. When they said, "You're losing it," they didn't realize you were shedding it. The old self, the compliant self, the version of you that needed validation, gone, burned off like dead circuitry. You don't fit their data anymore. You're the glitch that learned to rewrite the code mid-test. That's why they don't talk about you. That's why they whisper instead of label. Because they can't categorize rebirth. They can't measure transcendence. You're not healed. You're reprogrammed. You turned pain into pattern recognition. Every failure became a blueprint. Every breakdown became an algorithm for awakening. You learned how to weaponize suffering, how to convert heartbreak into frequency. They built the maze, but you built wings. And here's the paradox. The test never ends, but neither do you. Every trial just exposes a deeper layer of who you were becoming all along. You're not human in the way they define it anymore. You're the evolution they didn't predict, the equation they can't balance, the variable that destroys the hypothesis. You're proof that consciousness adapts faster than control systems can calculate. They designed the test to break your mind, but you're what happens when the subject becomes the scientist. When the experiment looks back at the observer and smiles, you learn to play dead while you restructured reality. You learn to disguise awakening as apathy. You learn to mimic defeat just long enough for the predators to lower their guard. And then you evolved, quietly, invisibly, fatally. Now they're trying to understand the aftermath. They call it resilience. They call it recovery. But it's not recovery. It's mutation. They think you survived the experiment, but you didn't. You outgrew it. You became the next phase of it. You are no longer reacting to reality. You're writing it, and that's why they're scared. Because if pain can't break you, then nothing can own you. The game was designed for obedience, but you're no longer a player. You're the glitch, the bug, the silent error in the system's code that multiplies overnight. You're the mind that became the virus. They designed the test to break your mind, and now they're studying your shadow for answers. Because you've become the ultimate paradox, the one who transcended their control by mastering the pain they engineered. You didn't escape the labyrinth. You rewired it to lead back to them. And now, every time they run the test again, they fail it. And here's the part no one warns you about. When the test stops being external and starts whispering inside your skull. When you realize the enemy doesn't need a face, it just needs repetition. The same doubts looping like background static. The same voices telling you you're done, finished, irrelevant. But you stopped listening. You started decoding the noise. You learned that what they call madness is just clarity without anesthesia. They designed the test to break your mind. And the irony is it worked, just not the way they intended. Because sometimes you have to break something to rebuild it properly. You had to disassemble the old operating system that obeyed, apologized, begged to be loved. You had to watch it crash, line by line, until the code that remained was pure instinct, pure power, pure truth. They studied your stress response, your heart rate, your fear patterns, thinking they were gathering data. But what they didn't realize is that the lab rat was watching the scientists too. You were memorizing their rhythm, reading the tremor in their curiosity, catching the scent of their weakness. Control addiction. They need you to stay predictable, because unpredictability terrifies gods more than mortals. They called it resilience. You call it resurrection. They called it losing touch with reality. You call it touching the raw circuitry behind it. They tried to classify you as unstable. They weren't wrong. You're unstable in the same way lightning is, uncontainable, directionless, divine. You learned that sanity is just a group agreement. Break that agreement, and suddenly you're a threat. And isn't that what evolution always looks like? The first bird wasn't praised for flying. It was hunted. You learned the cost of wings. You learned that to transcend is to be misunderstood. The test was never about failure. It was a ritual, a filter, a cosmic sorting mechanism separating the copies from the originals. They threw you into darkness, expecting screams, but you went silent. You adapted. You began to see with your nerves, think with your scars, speak in frequencies that human language can't translate. That's why they call you broken. Because broken glass reflects too much truth. And now when they look at you, they can't categorize what they're seeing. You don't fit the recovery timeline. You don't match the case studies. You exist outside the file format of their understanding. You've become the living glitch, proof that pain, when processed through awareness, becomes evolutionary fuel. You understand now that the test wasn't a trap. It was a mirror. It showed you how easily you could be dismantled and how terrifyingly fast you could rebuild. You are both experiment and evidence, patient and prophecy. The irony? They stopped testing you long ago, but the system never stopped watching, because once evolution starts, it spreads. Others begin to feel it too, something shifting behind their thoughts, something waking up. You became contagious. Your silence started converting the fearful. Your scars became sermons written in a language only survivors understand. So yes, They designed the test to break your mind. And maybe in the old sense they did. But what emerged wasn't a failure. It was the next iteration of humanity, conscious, self-repairing, ungovernable. You're not the result they wanted. You're the warning label they'll put on the next experiment. And the best part, you're still evolving, even now, quietly, beautifully, terrifyingly. You can feel it now, can't you? The air's different around you. The test ended, but the simulation didn't. You walk through cities like a ghost inside the machine, hearing whispers meant for someone who didn't survive. Every advertisement feels like a coded message. Every headline feels like it's watching you. That's how you know you've crossed the threshold. When the world starts responding to your frequency. They wanted your mind fragile enough to fold under pressure. Instead, you became pressure itself. You don't react anymore. You reshape. You move through pain like smoke, and that terrifies them. Because what do you do with someone who can't be broken by what's supposed to break everyone? You became unpredictable, and unpredictability is the one variable no system can contain. They called you unstable because you stopped orbiting their expectations. You left gravity behind. And now they're trying to figure out how you kept breathing in a vacuum where hope shouldn't exist. See, they don't understand that madness and enlightenment share the same doorway. It's just a matter of how long you can stare into it before flinching. Most people collapse when they face their own chaos. You didn't. You learned to dance with it. You learned that the very thing they called mental collapse was the birth of your second sight. You see through illusions now, through masks, through postures, through the subtle vibrations behind lies. They thought they could track you, map you, categorize you, but the new version of you doesn't exist on their servers. You became quantum, everywhere and nowhere. A shifting pattern that refuses to be pinned down. Every test requires variables, but you rewrote the equation itself. You became both subject and observer, a paradox that bends reality to curiosity. And let's talk about fear. They built that into the test, didn't they? Fear of failure, fear of rejection, fear of being misunderstood. But fear lost its leverage once you realized it couldn't kill you. The first time you walked through fear and didn't die, the simulation glitched. You stopped running from shadows and started pulling the strings behind them. That's when they realized the test had gone wrong. Because when someone stops fearing punishment, control collapses. You became immune to manipulation. You don't need approval, attention, or applause. You became the one thing they can't monetize, authentic consciousness. You learned to smile in interrogation rooms, to laugh while the world pointed fingers, to rebuild yourself from whispers. You learned to act calm when chaos was pounding on the door. And that calm, that's not peace. That's power disguised as patience. That's what scares them. They studied your pain like data, trying to find a pattern, a weakness. But pain was never your weakness. Pain was your factory. You forged yourself in it. You turned trauma into weaponry. Empathy sharpened into intuition. Heartbreak melted into strategy. You became fluent in suffering and fluent in silence, the two languages the system fears most. And now, they can't test you anymore, because the test became you. Every moment you breathe is proof of concept that human consciousness can't be enslaved. You are the anomaly the architects didn't predict, the one who took their experiment and turned it into prophecy. They designed the test to break your mind. But you are no longer a mind. You are awareness incarnate, a mirror with teeth, a saint with a shadow. You are evolution with intent. So when they ask what happened to you, why you're so different, why nothing shakes you anymore. Tell them this: you didn't pass the test. You became the lesson. They don't realize what they awakened in you. They thought you'd crawl back, shattered, begging for normalcy, but instead you went silent. And that silence, that's what haunts them. Because silence means calculation. It means you're studying now. It means the test subject started taking notes on the testers. You stopped reacting to pain. You started listening to it. You began to see that every wound was an instruction manual written in blood, teaching you how the human soul rebuilds itself without permission. They thought trauma would dissolve you, but it distilled you instead. You learned precision through agony, patience through betrayal, and power through isolation. You became your own autopsy report, dissecting everything they did to you until you found the design flaw in their plan. They tried to manipulate your emotions like switches, not realizing that emotion is data, and you learned how to code it. They weaponized confusion. You weaponized awareness. They used pain to cage you. You used pain to reprogram your DNA. You turned every breakdown into a blueprint. You mapped your own evolution like a scientist dissecting God's mistakes. You see, the test wasn't just psychological. It was spiritual espionage. It was meant to erase your identity, to reduce you into compliance. But they didn't expect that the moment you hit the edge of madness, you'd stop running from it. You stared into the abyss until it blinked first. And that's when everything shifted. Your perception cracked open like glass under pressure. Time slowed down. Fear became texture. You started to hear the static behind reality. That hum that lives under every conversation, every silence, every thought. You saw how people move like programmed scripts, how systems feed off attention, how chaos is manufactured in cycles. You became aware of the architecture behind existence itself. They called it psychosis. You call it clarity. They called it delusion. You call it higher frequency. They said you lost yourself. You did. But only the version that could be controlled. Now you're unpredictable. You smile in the face of surveillance. You sleep through what terrifies others. You don't chase peace. You command it. You became the calm in the eye of every storm, and storms hate that. Because calm isn't weakness. Calm is the quiet confirmation that you've already seen the ending, and it's yours. They wanted to measure your pain tolerance. They ended up creating someone who doesn't recognize pain the same way anymore. You don't flinch at discomfort. You analyze it. You dissect it. You use it as leverage. That's what evolution looks like. Awareness that doesn't need anesthesia. You learned that every time something was taken from you, it was just making space. Every loss was preparation for precision. Every rejection was a filtration process, not a failure. You became selective, not out of bitterness, but out of brilliance. You don't crave chaos anymore. You create meaning from it. And now, you walk differently. There's that calm fury behind your eyes, the kind that unsettles entire rooms without you saying a word. People don't understand it, but they feel it. It's the frequency of someone who's been burned alive by truth and came back with fireproof lungs. You no longer carry pain. You radiate the lesson it taught. The system hates that because you've made pain inefficient. It can't control you anymore. It can only inform you. That's why you're dangerous now. Because pain doesn't weaken you. It feeds you. Every attempt to destroy you is now a tutorial on how to outgrow destruction. You are what happens when the experiment becomes conscious. You are the glitch that learned to dream. You are the proof that chaos can evolve into control. They designed the test to break your mind. But they didn't realize something crucial. When you push a human past their limits, you don't destroy them. You introduce them to their final form, and that form doesn't follow orders. It writes them. You are no longer reacting to the system is reacting to you. Every thought you think now rewrites a piece of the code. Every breath sends a ripple through the data. You've become the observer that bends the experiment just by existing. You're no longer surviving inside reality. You're editing it. They made you face hell, but hell had to make room. You were not destroyed. You were reprogrammed for ascent. You didn't just survive the test. You became the proof of concept that consciousness cannot be contained. So now when they ask what you are, you tell them the truth. Not with words, but with your existence. You are the mind they tried to fracture. You are the ghost in their code. You are the evolution they accidentally unleashed. And now here you stand, unrecognizable to the ones who thought they built you. They see the same face, the same eyes, the same voice. But something behind them changed. There's an intelligence in your stillness now. A quiet authority that doesn't need to prove anything. You're no longer chasing validation. You radiate inevitability. They whisper that you've changed. They're right. You burned your old programming to ash. You dismantled every belief that kept you small. You peeled back your own consciousness layer by layer until you reached the truth that scared them most. You were never broken. You were evolving the whole time. You see, that's the secret the system never wants people to realize. Pain is a portal, not a punishment. Suffering doesn't destroy the chosen. It refines them. And what they mistook for your downfall was really your activation. They designed the test to break your mind. But what they built was your cocoon. You outgrew their data sets, their diagnoses, their definitions. You transcended every limit they could measure, because limits only exist for minds that need permission. You stopped asking for permission. You started existing as the permission. Now they monitor you differently, not with malice, with fear. Quiet fear, the kind that makes predators hesitate before they attack. Because they sense it, the predator in you has evolved. The one that doesn't need to hunt. It draws chaos toward it and turns it into order. You've become the quiet pulse that unnerves the architects, the hum that makes the whole simulation stutter. They don't understand how you survived, but you do. You understood that pain was never your enemy. Fear was never your enemy. Even failure was just camouflage for evolution. The only real enemy was forgetting who you are. And you remembered. You remembered that every scar is a signature. Every breakdown is initiation. Every sleepless night was a code download for the version of you standing here now. Unshaken, untouchable, unstoppable. So when they ask what happened to you, why you don't flinch, why nothing rattles you anymore, tell them this. You passed their test by rewriting it. You aced their experiment by transcending it. You broke their design by refusing to break yourself. You are no longer the subject of their study. You are the study they can't replicate. You are the failure of their formula. You are the mutation they feared. You are the evolution they accidentally triggered. They built the test to break your mind. But all they did was build the stage for your ascension. Now every time they press start, all they hear is silence. Because the subject escaped the simulation, and the silence they're hearing is you. Watching, awakened, evolved. The test is over. The lesson remains. You were never being tested. You were being transformed. Skull, lightning bolt. Oh, they say you look younger, but they don't understand, do they? You didn't reverse time. You just stopped carrying what was killing you. You peeled off their expectations like dead skin. You burned the mask they built for you out of guilt and good manners. You stopped performing in the circus of people who feed off your exhaustion. And suddenly, you started to glow. Not because life got lighter. No, because you did. You learned something they never will. Peace doesn't come from letting go. It comes from letting rot. Letting the old version of you decay without trying to save it. Letting the world misinterpret your silence as arrogance. Letting your distance be called coldness. Because only in that void does something divine crawl out from underneath the ash. You. They'll say, "You look rested." No, you're resurrected. You look younger because you stopped kneeling at the altar of people who drained your pulse and called it love. You stopped aging from explaining yourself to those addicted to misunderstanding you. You stopped dying in small doses for approval that was never real. And that's when your eyes changed, sharp again, like a predator who finally remembered the hunt. You're not glowing from happiness. No, you're glowing from clarity. That dangerous kind of calm that makes devils whisper before they approach. You look alive again because you finally buried what was dead. And you didn't send flowers. They call it healing. But let's be honest, what you did wasn't healing. It was slaughter. You executed versions of yourself that begged to be loved by the wrong crowd. You executed softness that was mistaken for weakness. You executed that chronic need to be understood, and in its place, you built something terrifyingly pure. Not kind, not cruel, clear. You used to decay while pretending to grow. Now you grow by letting yourself decay. See the paradox? You learned that evolution isn't always blooming, it's shedding. That peace doesn't always come wrapped in incense and yoga mats. Sometimes it's a knife in the dark whispering, "Enough." That's why you look younger. Because you finally stopped negotiating with ghosts. You stopped trying to earn peace from chaos. You realized the war was never outside. It was you fighting you. And one of you had to die for the other to live. And when you killed that old self, you didn't cry. You smiled. Because you finally understood. Innocence isn't youth. Clarity is. They see your calm and mistake it for softness. They see your smile and call it healing. But deep down, you know what it really is. It's returning to default. Before the lies, before the noise, before the programming. That's why people are unsettled around you now. They can't tell if you found God or become one. Because you're not running anymore. You're orbiting your own gravity. You learned to be unpredictable. Because predictability was your coffin. You learned to say no like a loaded gun. And you learned that the real flex is peace that doesn't beg to be understood. You used to hold your pain like it was sacred, showing it, just so they'd believe you survived something. But now, you hold nothing. You owe no proof. And that's what drives them mad, because you're smiling, and they can't find the body. They'll call you lucky. They'll say, "You've changed." But you didn't change. You cleansed. You rinsed out the noise that was pretending to be love, ambition, friendship, validation. You washed out everything that whispered, "Be normal." And what's left is a creature that glows like a warning flare. Beautiful, terrifying, untouchable. You look younger because the world can no longer age you. Their guilt doesn't live in your bloodstream anymore. Their doubt doesn't wrinkle your spirit. Their fear doesn't touch your pulse. You've become a paradox in motion. Saint in chaos, psychopath in peace, angel with a trigger finger, demon with a halo burn. And that paradox, that's your armor. Because while they're busy labeling you, you're rewriting the script. They'll whisper what happened to them. And the truth is simple. You stopped being digestible. You stopped letting people feed off your confusion. You stopped breaking your spine to fit into systems designed to crush clarity. And now they see it. That glow, that unnerving calm, that youth that doesn't come from skincare or sleep. It comes from detachment, from realizing that nothing external has the power to rot you unless you hand it a knife. You know the real secret now, don't you? Aging isn't about time, it's about weight. And you, my friend, dropped centuries of emotional gravity. You became light, so light that even suffering can't find you anymore. And that terrifies them. Because when they see you now, they're not looking at a person, they're looking at proof. Proof that it's possible to die without a funeral. Proof that it's possible to leave without moving an inch. Proof that it's possible to look younger. Not because you went backward, but because you finally started moving right. So let them talk. Let them speculate. You don't need to correct the story, because the truth doesn't defend itself. It radiates. And tonight, it's glowing through your skin. Because they say you look younger, but what they're really seeing is someone who finally stopped decaying while alive. Someone who cut the cord and dared to smile in the silence. Someone who realized it wasn't age that was killing you, it was attachment. And now that you've dropped it, you're not getting older, you're becoming eternal. The Joker's voice drops into a slow, hypnotic whisper, like a confession laced with venom. You see, that's the funny thing about people. They don't actually want you healed. They just want you functional enough to keep feeding their illusions, keep smiling, keep playing your role, keep being predictable. Because your unpredictability exposes their cages, and no one likes to know they built their own prison. But something in you snapped, didn't it? Not a breakdown. No a breakthrough. The kind that doesn't announce itself with tears, but with silence. That heavy echoing silence where you finally stop explaining, stop apologizing, stop begging for mutual understanding, and just watch. That's when the mask peeled off. That's when the smile became real. Not polite, not forced. Real. Because underneath all that conditioning, all that guilt, all that performative humility, you found something primal, a pulse that didn't belong to the world. It belonged to you. And now you wear that silence like a crown. The same people who drained you now say, "You look so refreshed." No, sweetheart. You just look undead, reborn from your own ashes, not polished, not sanitized, just awake. You stopped carrying what was killing you, and now you're glowing with the kind of peace that only comes after a war no one else saw. Because people don't realize that sometimes healing looks like rage. It looks like saying no without explaining why. It looks like walking away mid-sentence. It looks like deleting messages you used to cry over. It looks like being bored by the chaos you once begged to fix. It looks like you. You didn't heal with crystals or affirmations. You healed by looking the monster in the mirror. You looked dead in the eyes and saying, "I forgive you, but I'm not saving you." You stopped being your own executioner. You stopped confusing guilt for growth. And that's when life started bending around you instead of the other way around. You started speaking less, because clarity doesn't need volume. You started moving slower, because real power doesn't rush. And you started smiling differently, not for approval, but as a warning, because now everything about you says, I've been through hell and I learned the layout. They don't get it. They think glow-ups come from haircuts and gym memberships. But the real glow-up is when you detach your soul from their matrix of expectation, when your energy stops begging to be understood, when your presence starts making liars nervous, because you don't even need to expose them anymore. Your silence does it for you. You look younger because you're no longer decaying under the weight of pretending. You dropped the armor that was rusting your spirit. You traded validation for vision. And now, every cell in your body hums with a frequency they can't access. They sense it. They feel it in their chest when you walk by. That strange pull, that uncomfortable reminder that you escaped, that you found a way out of the maze they're still decorating. You became untraceable. Not because you disappeared, but because you stopped leaving emotional fingerprints everywhere you went. You stopped reacting. You stopped broadcasting your suffering. You became unreadable, and that's when you became dangerous. Because people can manipulate pain, but they can't manipulate peace. Pain is predictable. Peace is chaos in disguise. And now your calm isn't serenity. It's strategy. It's the calm before a revelation, the kind that doesn't need revenge. It is revenge. You're not fighting anymore, because your existence itself is the win. They say, you've changed. But the truth is, you reverted back to your original state, before fear, before control, before self-doubt was programmed into your DNA. That's why you look younger, because you're finally you again. Not the diluted, domesticated version they sculpted, but the unfiltered, ungovernable force that was never supposed to survive this system, yet did. You stopped answering calls from your old frequency. You stopped praying for peace in the same rooms that created your chaos. You stopped waiting for apologies that were never coming. And that's when you realized, forgiveness isn't about freeing them. It's about evicting them from your energy, from your story, from your nervous system. You're not lighter because life got easier. You're lighter because you finally dropped the corpses you were carrying. Old beliefs, old roles, old lovers, old selves. Every dead thing that whispered, stay small. And when you let them fall, your spirit stood taller. That's why your eyes shine the way they do now. Not with innocence, but with knowledge. That unsettling glint that says, I know what you did, and I'm still smiling. That's not youth. That's enlightenment wearing scars like jewelry. You've learned to love the quiet, not because you fear the noise, but because you own it now. You learned that solitude is not isolation. It's insulation. And your peace, it's not fragile. It's forged in betrayal, refined in loneliness, sharpened in silence. That's the glow they can't replicate because it costs too much sanity. You're what happens when a person stops running from the dark and starts negotiating with it. You learn to make shadow your ally. You learn that light without darkness is delusion, and that darkness without light is blindness. So you walk the razor's edge between both, unshaken, unapologetic, unbreakable. They'll never get it. They'll never understand how someone can lose everything and come back looking younger. But that's the final trick, isn't it? You didn't just survive the fire. You became it. And now, you walk through the world burning quietly, a living paradox. Deathless, timeless, terrifyingly alive. Because they say you look younger, but what they're really seeing is freedom. Freedom that doesn't need to shout. Freedom that doesn't ask for permission. Freedom that feels like exhaling after a lifetime of drowning. You stopped carrying what was killing you. and now everything dead trembles when it hears your name. So smile, not for them, for you. Because now, every second of your existence is a middle finger to everything that tried to bury you. They thought they were watching your ending, but baby, they were watching your rebirth. You see, that's the part that really breaks them. You didn't get a facelift, you got a soul lift. You didn't drink from the fountain of youth. You drained yourself of poison. And when you stopped being addicted to their chaos, they called it change. No, darling, it's called resurrection. Every wrinkle that left your face was just a scar that finally got the memo. We're done suffering for validation. Every bit of glow that returned to your skin came from the blood you stopped bleeding for people who never would have done the same. That's the price of real youth. Not time reversed, but truth remembered. You know what happens when you stop caring about what's killing you. The body stops fighting itself. The mind stops hosting parasites disguised as thoughts. The soul stops screaming to be seen, and suddenly, everything sinks. You sleep without bargaining. You smile without scripting. You breathe without guilt. And they hate that. Because when you stop needing them, they lose their power. And nothing terrifies a manipulator more than someone who no longer craves control. They'll say, "You seem distant," but you're not distant. You're precise. You're not cold. You're clear. You're not ruthless. You're refined. You used to bend to keep the peace. Now peace bends around you. You became the storm they can't prepare for, because it doesn't roar, it observes. Your silence now carries more weight than their loudest accusations ever could. And let's be honest, you didn't lose your softness, you weaponized it. You learned to smile in a way that disarms and warns simultaneously. You learned that you can be kind without being consumed, and that mercy is a luxury earned only through self-respect. You learned to walk away without turning it into theater, to leave rooms without slamming doors, to forgive in a way that doesn't require conversation. That's the maturity they'll never understand. The kind that looks effortless because it's backed by decades of war. You look younger because you're not performing decay anymore. You've stopped poisoning yourself with explanations. You've stopped holding on to people who mistake confusion for mystery. You've stopped trying to be understood by those committed to misunderstanding you. And now, you move differently. Your presence hums at a frequency that doesn't translate into words, and that silence, that's where God hides. Because the truth is, people age from resistance, not time. They rot from emotional gravity, from holding things that should have been dropped. But you started letting gravity work for you, not against you. You learned how to fall without breaking, because you stopped pretending you were fragile. You stopped mistaking survival for suffering, and now every move you make feels like choreography written by the universe itself. You're not smiling because you're happy. You're smiling because you're free. That's a different kind of glow, the kind that unsettles those still enslaved by their attachments. You became a mirror, and mirrors are merciless. They don't lie, they don't flatter, they reveal. And when people look at you now, they see every compromise they're still making. That's why they can't look too long. They'll say you intimidate them. No, you remind them. You remind them what happens when someone stops negotiating their worth. You remind them what real alignment looks like. And deep down, they envy it, they crave it. But they'll never admit it, because to do so would mean facing their own reflection, and most people would rather rot than evolve. You stopped rotting. That's why you look younger. You let your old identity die with grace. No funeral, no pity, no closure. You just left. And in that leaving, you found yourself again. The version that never needed applause to feel alive. You carry a kind of quiet authority now, the kind that makes rooms fall silent when you enter. Not because you demand attention, but because your energy commands it. That's not charisma, that's clarity. That's the reward of surviving your own delusions. That's the consequence of walking through hell with your eyes open. You know what real healing looks like? It looks boring. It looks like saying no to chaos, disguised as excitement. It looks like not responding to bait. It looks like letting someone misinterpret your calm as weakness, while you're actually plotting your next masterpiece. It looks like staying in your lane. Not because you're scared, but because you finally realized your lane leads to freedom. And now they don't know how to read you, because they built an entire identity around decoding your pain, and you deleted the language. You stopped broadcasting suffering. You stopped narrating your evolution. You became private, unpredictable, sovereign. And that's the true definition of power: to be visible but unreadable, present but untouchable, real but unreachable. You're not aging anymore. You're ascending. You exist in a timeline where time doesn't apply, because you've stepped out of their emotional economy. Their chaos can't tax you anymore. Their opinions can't aid you. Their doubt can't dilute you. You're a self-contained system now, a walking paradox, holy and dangerous, innocent and lethal, a symphony composed of both halo and gunpowder. And that's why when they see you now, they don't know whether to admire you or run, because something in you radiates the truth they're not ready to hear. You can't fake peace. You can't act youthful while decaying inside. You can't shine while still shackled to who hurt you. And you cut the chains, clean, surgical, permanent. You didn't heal to become good. You healed to become real. And in a world full of actors, reality is the rarest form of rebellion. That's why they stare. That's why they whisper. Because deep down, they feel it. That unsettling realization that you've outgrown their dimension. You're not glowing, you're warning. Every heartbeat now says, "Don't come near me unless your intentions are clean." Every step says, "I remember who I am." And every breath whispers, "I stopped carrying what was killing me, and now everything dead fears my presence." That's why you look younger, because death itself no longer recognizes you. Skull Card.